we'll just dive right in and go for the next hour and see where spirit leads us. So, welcome to the Beyond Conscious Becoming Multidimensional podcast, all things multidimensional. And I think really what we're going to be tapped to really visit about and share about for the benefit of anyone who listens, now and probably well into the future. Because I could feel it before we got on today, is this incredible walk we do here, alchemizing all of the density, all of the lower emotional states back into love. I mean, I
Yes.
love I love talking about multidimensionality, and we can talk about that and
Me too.
inner inner tech transfer and all that good stuff, and we definitely will. But yeah, my own team is confirming that like what people really need help with is this density stuff,
Mm.
right? So let me go ahead and introduce you to everyone. So this is Christian Sundberg, and he has put together this beautiful these meditations, reflections, and rememberings, a walk in the physical, understanding the human experience within the larger spiritual context. You existed before your human experience, and you will exist after. Drawing from his unique pre-birth memories, Christian Sundberg provides an encouraging framework for understanding the nature of the human experience within the larger spiritual context. A walk in the physical is a nonlinear reality model that boils down the very vast into succinct, accessible language. More than a set of ideas, though, it is a tool meant to point you towards the portion of yourself that already exists right now beyond Earth. At the heart of the book is the theme of love, and it describes why authentic love, even in small matters, is so deeply important to our human journey. Thank you so much for putting this out in the world. I use it pretty much daily. I get told go to a certain page number, and it's always exactly what I need a little reminder of. So I'm sure we'll be spirit led and they'll tell me what pages to go to today. But I first just want to give you the floor, welcome you. Thank you for being here, and let you go ahead and share your story because it is so incredibly powerful. And then we'll have some fun
Sure.
diving through it.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. When I sensed into the energy of what you're offering, it's so amazing. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, how can I even like just even to match it and to serve it, I'm honored. So if there's any way you want to guide me, please let me know.
You bet, you bet. Yeah, I
So
feel like we're both very much in service here today. I can feel it.
yes, that's it's a great honor to be in service on Earth. So I'll share my story in brief, with the disclaimer that language cannot possibly speak to it, like at all. Language is words, form, symbols, and that form is specific to our local world and its assumptions, whereas our true nature transcends those assumptions. So I'll share, but like it's like as soon as we open our mouths, we're just like butchering it. You know what I mean? There's just no way to really articulate it. So I just have to say that up front because I'll do my best with the language we have, but it's very difficult to speak to. And I know some of this sounds pretty out there. I'm a working professional. I'm a very down to earth, rational type of person. So I understand how some of these concepts sound. And I didn't share it for the first 8 years after this understanding and awareness came back to me because it's just the kind of thing you don't talk about, in the mainstream. Okay, so I remember long ago, before I had ever been physical, coming across a being who had been physical. And I guess I should set the stage even a bit more before I go into the detail that so I had so up until about the age of 5 or 6, I had some pre-birth awareness. So as a small child, I remember choosing to come to Earth, and I knew that this was just an experience we're all having together, and it was a neat experience, but nobody else talked about it, so neither did I. And then that memory left me completely by the age of like 5 or 6, which is pretty normal here. And I had no recollection of it all at all until the age of 30. My body is 44 right now. So at 30, I took up a long-term meditation practice and I began to have out-of-body experiences. They were extremely eye-opening and, personal paradigm shifting. And I also began to have this pre-birth memory return. So that's what I'm sharing, as you request that I share my story. So I remember coming across a being who had been physical long before I had ever even been physically incarnated. And in those reality systems, you can feel and know tangibly the nature of other beings because we're all telepathically connected. We're one with each other, and you can feel that. Like you're individuated, you're still you, but also you can feel that others are connected to you. They're a part of you in a way. So I could feel from him this incredible power and love and joy and freedom and just this depth, this quality of essence is the only way I can describe it. That was like, oh my gosh, like, do you feel as much joy and freedom and power as I feel that you feel and know? And he said yes. And he shared with me many things, but chief among them was that he had lived a physical lifetime. Well, many lifetimes, but one in particular, he had this physical experience where he had suffered a long-term health condition, some kind of pain that lingered with him for a long time. And the way that he chose to meet that and like process it allowed this refinement of his being. I don't know how to describe it. Like he refined through the experience, and it was absolutely amazing and breathtaking. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Like I was so like inspired and fired up. And he communicated something to the effect of, and this is not negative, it's just like, yeah, that's what they all say. Like you just don't know how hard it can be. Like you're just ignorant to it. Like nothing negative. It's just you just don't know. You don't know what you're asking, kind of thing. And I said, no, I mean it. I want to do this. And he said, well, go talk to your guides. So I lived many times since then, and I don't remember, of course, the majority of that, but I remember finding this being again later and showing him I was on the path, and he was encouraging. Okay, so then the majority of this pre-birth experience is of a time somewhat immediately preceding this lifetime, where I had taken a long break in between lifetimes. And I remember this guide coming to me over and over again. Are you ready to go back yet? Are you ready to go back yet? Not like pestering, but just kind of like reminding me of my own intention. And finally being like, okay, I'm ready to go back. And then reviewing with this guide where I can only describe as like my state, like who I am, who I had been, what I had been and known, and like what I'd integrated. You could say like maybe like reviewing virtues or something even. I don't like to put it so dryly like that, but it was like I could just review, okay, like these are all the types of experiences I really understood and qualities that I really, I knew I had or something. Had's a bad word. It's not you don't have a quality. It was like I had integrated all these experiences to a certain quality of being, but there was this one area that was like blatantly obvious. Like that was the thing I needed to work on. And I don't like the words work on either because that makes it sound like a task or something, but it wasn't hard to identify. It was almost like a big joke. It was like, well, that's pretty easy to see what that is. And it was what I can only describe as a really low vibration fear, a fear that had bested me in a previous experience and in a previous physical experience. Because of the fear, I had turned into an egoic monster, because ego arises from fear. And so in that monster, in that experience, I had become a monster. I had become very damaging for other people because this fear was so intense. And so I was like, wow, like, okay, like I was really excited to get in there and like really re-meet this and integrate it because I could see and feel that if I could do that, it would enable a profound expansion of being, not only for myself, but for the whole. It would be like an incredible service for all that is. But I could see even from that point of view, like, oh my gosh, this is so low vibration. Like, and so I asked my guide, has any other being ever integrated something this low in this specific way? And he said, yes. And you have all of time available to you to do so. There's no hurry. Like, yes. And I just knew like if it could be done, then I would do it. Like if it was at all possible, then I would do it. So they brought me a lifetime that was a really good match for the intention of meeting and integrating that fear. And it wasn't this lifetime, it was an immediately preceding physical life. I remember reviewing that life in great detail and accepting that life and then accepting the veil. Okay, so the veil is just a word. Uh, it's what I remember most about this, and it's on my mind every day. It's like if you imagine the body of your awareness being connected to all things and being completely full of love and power and totally connected and having access to all knowledge and feeling and knowing everything is within you. Very, very high vibration state, and then plummeting down, 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 lower, 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 lower into an extremely low, dense, cold, uh, just a metaphor, state of being. And it was like having all of my knowing erased and all of my connectedness disappear and being shoved inside of a tiny tuna can, is what it felt like being incarnated into a body. And then, but also feeling very like empty, like, like the vacuum of space or something, like just absent of stuff. Like it just felt so cold and empty, but yet dense. So I was in the womb in that life, but I was only there a short time. And I'm like, I am not doing this. There's no way. Like, I am not going to tolerate this for a lifetime. No, no, no. So, because I was afraid immediately. So I summoned my might, my strength, and I fought my way out back past the veil. I knew I could do that, and I succeeded in doing that, but I immediately had a life review because I became aware that I had killed the body. I'd killed the fetus that was to be mine. And I saw how my fear affected the mother, and not only the mother, but hundreds of others that the mother would interact with because I had heaped grief upon her because of my fear and because I had caused a miscarriage. And so I was like, I mean, the best word in English is responsible for that. That's the best way I can put it. And like from that point of view, like it's okay. It's okay. Everything, it's like this is just a big play. It's okay. There's nothing truly wrong, but I could see very objectively, like, oh man, I got a lot of fear. I gotta do something about this. This is a lot of fear. So, and then I spent some time, and I know this sounds really out there too, but in a place that was all I can describe as like a veil acceptance simulator. It was like a room where you practice surrendering your power over your control over to a mock veil because I had rejected the first time. So now I wanted to be like, okay, I'd like to practice so I don't do that again. And then eventually, sometime later, they brought me this life. And I reviewed this life in incredible detail. I reviewed millions and millions of possibilities of what might unfold in this life. It was like if you took a tree and laid it on its side and started at the roots, the thick part of the trunk, and worked your way out to the branches. It was like reviewing that for millions and millions of potential paths, outcomes, experience paths. And there were events in it, but it wasn't primarily about events or things. It was more about like, what would it be like to be me? To be Christian the human in this point or at this moment, like what would the experience feel like, basically in great depth. And I remember asking questions about the life and making certain requests about certain traits. And like, for instance, I asked to be intelligent again because I had known that I had been intelligent the last few lives, and I preferred to do that again. I didn't want to have a non-intelligent life experience. And they said, yes, you can do that. And I asked, like, and I knew that it would be beneficial if I were to be male in this life because it would help in a certain way for me to face this fear. Not that there's not that either sex is better or worse at facing fear. It's just different qualities of energy. And there's like, being male almost is like a certain obtuse edge or something. So like I knew that was meaningful. And I knew that my father would instill confidence in me when he raised me, and that confidence would be really important so that I had a rock to stand on. When this fear hit me in my early 20s, it was likely to, arrive in the form of a biological trauma, a health condition. That did happen. So I reviewed all this, and I remember there having to be a moment to say yes. And I don't remember that moment, but I remember being in this waiting area and then my guide coming to me like, go now. Like, now's the time. You got to go now. Like, Earth time, buddy, kind of thing. Like, don't wait. I'm like, okay, now. And then being in this area that I can only describe like a technician's chamber or like a mechanic's shop. Uh, Hard to describe it. It was like above the earth, and I could see the earth below in this. There's like a shaft below me. And there are these beings in this shop. I don't know how to describe it, like a space station or something almost, that are very technical in nature. They're like technicians, veil application technicians. The quality of their being is such that they are extremely capable at figuring out organic veil application. So I remember them asking me one last time, "Are you sure? Like, are you sure are you ready to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah," because I knew once I said yes here, I was in for the ride. Like, there's no going back. It's like getting on a roller coaster. Like once a roller coaster starts, you can't get off until the roller coaster comes to a complete stop. That kind of felt like that. And saying yes, and then once again feeling the veil come over me and plummeting down, 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 lower, 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 more, lower, 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 more, lower, 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 in vibration all the way down to being bodily. And this time just trying not to fight it because I knew that I remember that I had rejected it before, and I was just, okay, just surrender. Like basically just surrendering my control to whatever it would do to me. That was my intention. Like let the veil grab and take hold and sink in. And I did that for a while, and eventually I sent one message back to the technicians. Did it take? Like, did I make it to the physical? And they sent one message back, yes. And actually, I remember feeling accomplished because even making it to the physical is one heck of an accomplishment vibrationally, because it's such a low vibration point of being. To even be physical is like, whoa, this is pretty awesome. So I was there for a while. And then after a while, I'm like, I'm not doing this. There's just no way. Like once again, I began to have fear. I'm like, I've lost everything that I am. I've forgot everything that I am. I'm not doing this. So once again, I began to summon my might to fight my way out. And when I did that, I had the most holy experience of this physical life. It's so personal, but I felt the great I am presence of source, God, what we call God, come to me and expand me back out. And I felt all the universe within me. And I felt all the stars. I felt our sun. I felt its life. It was alive. Like our sun is conscious. I know it sounds wild, but I experienced it. I experienced that the consciousness of our sun was in me and it was churning with bliss. And God said to me, "This is still what you are. You can never not be this." And so I was like, oh, okay, then I don't need to fight, really, because that was what it was about. I was fighting because I had lost what I was. And so then I relaxed and let go back into the simple existence of being in the womb. And I was there for a while, and then it seemed like a long time later, I remember being born. I remember the shock, the sight, the sound. I remember looking up at the nurses and not having any idea what was going on. Just seeing these beings and being like, what is happening? Like, who are these beings? And feeling love for them, actually, and being super curious. And it's funny because I shared this with my father years later, and he said, "Oh, you had the most curious look I've ever seen on a baby's face." He said, just had such an intense curiosity. I remember looking up at everything and being like, what is happening? Where am I? What is this place? You know? So, and then a couple of weeks later, when I was 2 weeks old, my body almost died because I got sick, and my parents had to have me baptized in the hospital. And so I don't know if somehow that has something to do with what I've shared, but anyway, so that's like that's a short summary. There's a lot connected to it. I used to think back on the flow chart when I was getting older, like when I was 3 and 4, and maybe 5, I used to like cheat, like just be like, okay, like what's going to happen tomorrow? Like just for simple stuff, like nothing earth shattering to the human, but like as a kid, I'm like, are we going to go to the store tomorrow? Are we going to go to the zoo? Like, is the neighbor going to come over? And just like checking the database, and eventually as I got older, that ability diminished significantly until I couldn't queue the database anymore. But I like assumed certain things that were true in our higher systems would be true here, and they weren't. And so that was very like surprising to me. Like when I realized that we can't feel each other's emotions here, and when I realized as I got older that people in positions of authority and leadership were not necessarily loving and wise, on earth, that's pretty common. Actually, the higher you actually visit people in positions of authority, I often have to fight hard to get there, dog eat dog world kind of thing. That's not the way of the higher realms where love and wisdom is the power. So anyway, I feel like my whole life I've kind of been trying to come to terms with the alienness of the human experience. And I'm a, fully participative functional adult. I'm a project manager for an insurance company now, and I've worked hard. I have two kids. I raise a family, and I've been very productive and all that, but I have never felt fully fooled, you know, this of what's going on here. And yeah, so that's a quick summary.
That's beautiful and opens up so many, different conversation points. First of all, I just want to give you the disclaimer. You can't say anything too weird on this channel.
Okay.
In fact, probably the weirder the better. For this audience, they're pretty primed. I'll just give you my
Okay.
synopsis, right? I started this channel in 17 after vowing I would never, ever, ever do a YouTube video. I get on and what do? I start talking about aliens. So there you
Uh-huh.
go. So I joke I had an adult onset awakening in my early 30s with a shared NDE with my father.
Okay.
They brought information that he would be leaving. Everybody thought he was going to beat the cancer. He had an underlying condition nobody knew about. The day he left, his childhood friend who'd passed 6 months before him was behind him in the hospital. I could see him,
Mm.
right? And I knew he was there for my dad, helped my dad leave. And then my father just kept showing. I should say, I had an entire movie reel of my
Mm.
shared lifetime of experiences with my father as he left. It was a
Wow.
beautiful parting gift. And then he just kept showing up. And I thought, oh, I must miss him. So I'm making this up. But then other spirits started to show up. And then it just,
Yeah.
it kind of was a fast moving train.
Pandora's box got opened. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like spirit medium to then channeling spirit guides and then ET contact and then
Okay.
beyond form and then really getting to this, I think this place where many of us are converging, which is remembering that everything, the foundation of reality is love.
Mm.
And this is a grand experiment to see what we can alchemize back into love. And it
Yes.
here, I'm really curious about your take. It does appear that we are in some fairly special times in
Mm.
this kind of physical, planetary, I want to say like bipedal experience that is unlike potentially other experiences, right? I was right
Yes.
with you. I've heard you in other interviews talk about, I wanted to pass out the flyers. You are a multidimensional being.
I did. I wanted to do that. Yeah.
We can do the inner tech transfer. And that's kind of where I started was like, well, we have an oversoul and we have these higher structures, and then we can do inner tech transfer. And so I've had brought in some amazing healing abilities from other aspects and other star systems this way. And it's
Mm.
really exciting. Human evolution has been my jam since I was 15. But as my awakening
Mhm.
continued, I don't know that it ever stops, right? I just kind of
Yeah.
realized where we're at now is it's beginning of this amazing healing renaissance and taking all this density and alchemizing it, finding wounded motivation. I feel like many of us are first generation healers, like we're taking thousands of years of ancestral trauma,
Mm.
and it feels like we're the ones getting off the bullet train and being like, stop, right? Let's just
Exactly. Yeah.
slow this thing down. Um, but yeah, your take, the first question that came to mind as you were talking was, seeing a being like that, a feeling more than seeing, understanding, right? Yeah, language comes kind of falls short
Full
here.
knowing. Yeah. Hmm.
And then recognizing that some part of you're meant for that, or is the term that's coming,
Mm.
uh, that's somehow part of what your soul wants to contribute. So I talk a lot about templates, like we're taking the
Mm.
templates here that may have errors, omissions, distortions,
Mm.
and we're kind of getting things a little bit like the
Yeah.
kaleidoscope, shifting it. So when you think about when you understood that you would be integrating this fear, this particular nuanced
Yes.
situation for the all,
Yes.
that's I mean, I could talk at length and go really deep and really curious about your understanding of what does that mean, especially for you once you've wrapped this one and you've done what you set out to do.
Uh-huh.
What is, I'm trying not to put any qualifiers or limiters on it.
Uh-huh.
What does that mean?
Yeah. So first I love the word alchemy in this context. Because you really could say that the human experience is a process of alchemy. And what are we alchemizing? Contrast. Okay, like so so the physical experience is actually not negative. Innately, I mean, we make it. Apply a lot of negative meaning. It's actually there's only one thing that is very extreme about the physical experience, and that is its limitation.
Mhm.
Like it's like wearing being physical is like wearing a very, very extreme set of limitations. Okay. So then once we're engaging this extremely, extremely challenging set of limitations potentially, then that has the opportunity to provoke our unevolvedness. So what I mean is like our fear, the 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 ways that we haven't come to terms with it yet. So how do we react when we feel separate, or when we feel powerless, or when we feel we don't have freedom, or when we feel we're not worthy? There's some of the really big ones on Earth that have thousands of, variations. How do we respond when those are the perceptions that get prompted? Because those aren't in alignment with the truth. See, the truth is that we are loved, we are free, we are powerful. But here in this great set of limitations, we can actually experience, I mean, go as far as we can push the envelope, experience separation. Separation is like the big unique limitation to this universe. Like if you say, what makes our universe so unique? Separation. That is that's like the unique, extreme, unusual, off the charts limitation that is unique to this universe. Like we're taking it like, what if we feel completely separate from each other as much as we can? Now we can't actually be separate. So we're only like pushing the envelope 99 percent or something towards separation. But now that we've done that, what do we do with it? Okay. So alchemizing it's just a word for how do we process the experience? How do we integrate all of the experiences we have in the human condition? All of the challenges, all the pains, all the limitations, all the contexts, all the roles, all the history. So we come into a lifetime and we might receive, like, I love how you mentioned that we pass down in a chain through the generations this pain, this trauma. We've like traumatized the crap out of each other, and then we pass it down generation to generation. Just slowing or stopping that is such a huge service. And like you said, then we are the ones who, on behalf of not just our family and not just ourselves, but the whole, we take on the role of actually facing this crap and actually processing it. I mean, and it's very hard to describe that word process, but it has to do with a quality of intention that we bring into it. So can we meet it with love and acceptance and vulnerability and humility? Can we feel it, instead of reject it? That quality of intention that we bring into that alchemizes it. Because what is the thing that ultimately is actually changing, you could say, or changing is not a good word, but alchemizing, altering, evolving? Consciousness itself, the spirit itself is growing, you could say, through how it integrates these experiences and grows back towards love, because love is its true nature. So how does it, even in the limitations, wield love? That's the simplest way to put it. How does it, so can we choose to wield love and freedom and joy and peace even with 1,000 pounds on our back? That is alchemy. Now that can mean a million things, practically speaking. It can mean so many different things to so many different people. And each of our intuition will guide us. It might mean willingness to feel, willingness to serve, willingness to actually do something, take some action, stop some action, take ownership in some way that hasn't been done before, have compassion for ourselves, whereas nobody else taught us to. Like, what it can mean so many different things. And as we do that, we are integrating, we're coming to terms with these experiences for ourselves and for the whole. And that is such a valuable process. And the human race, like you said, is at an interesting point in history. I don't mean to go too far forward in this, because, like you said, we're going through this, what we call the awakening, which is just a term, but it's basically the act of the play where the consciousness of Earth, the collective consciousness of humanity and the whole system is starting to wake up and process all that old crap in an extremely accelerated way. Now, it may look on the surface like there's all sorts of, yes, there's all sorts of friction on the surface. Because guess what? We have a ton of fear in the basement. Our basement load, our garbage load is extreme. So when we start bringing that crap out of the basement and putting it out on the surface to be seen, it's ugly. Okay. But we are removing it from the basement and beginning to process it. And the whole human race is going through this great shift right now where we're trying to alchemize, process a huge amount of that old fear-based thinking, all sorts of us versus them patterns, and all sorts of unworthiness and lack of freedom and lack of empowerment. Oh my gosh, like the human race for thousands of years has like believed in powerlessness, but we are powerful multidimensional beings. Like, are we? So we are rediscovering that slowly. That's actually very. I say slowly because to the human personality it looks slow, but from the spiritual perspective, we're doing it very quickly.
Right. It's so accelerated. I talk an awful lot about getting stuck in victim, like the victim
Yes.
trap and that kind of loop that we can get stuck in. At one point, I should back up and just the humor. At 19, I had this moment that, the veil obviously was doing its job, but I had a moment of just looking around in college and going, I don't think I was supposed to get off here. I think I missed my stop on the intergalactic tramway. Like, what is this place and how did I get here? Right. There was that kind of feeling out of step, right?
Yes.
But this thing that I'm always working with people on of getting out of old loops. So when you said this experience had bested you in a prior life, I mean, this is
Mhm.
what I think, is most helpful for people of understanding how do I evolve? How do I
Mhm.
move out of this? Right. My motivation came kind of early on in my awakening where I just had some sort of remembering of like, oh no, I'm not getting to this life review and saying I biffed it. Not doing that. I've done it too many times. I don't care what it takes. I'll talk about aliens on YouTube. I don't care, whatever. I'll just do
Amen.
right. But I realize it's not necessarily so straightforward for people that, that getting that stuck in those loops is a very real, almost like hazard built into this video game, if that makes sense. So I would love for you to
Yeah.
speak
A
to
quick
that.
comment on that. What pops to mind? The only okay, so the hazard isn't actually technically built into the game.
Hmm.
The hazard is fear. So that's the only thing that's the only problem. Like I mean, I don't mean to oversimplify it because it's not easy. Like it's incredibly not easy at times. But I'm just pointing out it's because already like believing that the video game itself, the physical reality itself, it has a built-in level of it's going to screw you. That's already wrong. Like what I mean is it's all it is limiting. All it is well defined. It's very consistent. I don't know why this comes to mind, but like, when you're a little kid and you watch a little kid and you put like I don't know, a knife in a drawer and you close the drawer and then you open up the drawer again and the knife is still there and they get this look like, oh my gosh, they get it. They get that the reality remembered and it remained consistent and the knife is still in there and they have this I don't know if you've seen this, but like I just mean our reality is very persistent and consistent to the point where even within very, very challenging circumstances, it will remain persistent and consistent. Someone physically dies. They don't they don't come back physically. Or if you get injured, your body will remember for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? Like that is the great limitation of the physical. That's the offering of it, is it doesn't yield to you. Like higher realities yield to us immediately because our intention, our thought is effective. It changes reality instantaneously. Our very focus, we can see how it affects reality systems, higher systems. But here on Earth, this is the reality where it looks like it actually is responding to us all the time. But on the surface, it looks like, I'm not moving. This car's coming at you, you get in the way, it's going to hit you. you know?
Right.
Anyway, so I'm just putting all that in context because really that's not the problem though. The problem is simply that when we pit ourselves against or into, not against, when we put ourselves through, it's a better way to put it, that much limitation and density and consistency, we may experience very, very deep fear. And victimhood is one of the the main very challenging cycles, that is a ultimately fear-based cycle that is difficult to get out of. I mean, I have a very close friend of mine who comes to mind with this, um, that I'm witnessing what could be, really an unfolding of personal strength and freedom. But this person happens to be going through a gender identity shift, and the victimization portion of it has been the overwhelming focus. So I don't make light of that. I, I don't like I've had so many health conditions that when you're in the middle of them, they hurt so bad, or, whatever, depending on what it is, it's, it can be difficult to not associate with the victimhood mentality. But if you feel like a victim, what part of you is saying no? I know, I know this is like so big and hard potentially. Where in all the trauma, yes, you've been traumatized. Yes, you've been wounded by the world or others or both or the body or something. You may have a whole lifetime of pain and trauma that victimhood is all you've known, maybe. It's a long, long, deep history. Okay. Okay. Where is your rejection of that? And where can you then choose a new thing now? Because we are applying the meaning. You can choose one powerful step closer towards an interpretation and meaning of freedom, joy, willingness to feel, like, okay, I feel traumatized. I'm going to feel it. Now, who am I really? Like, find your authentic self. Your deepest authentic self is not a victim. Your deepest authentic self is not a victim. So, like, if you really can locate even a small way, like I'm trying to lift up the smallness is okay. That's not about big, immediate, okay, in 5 minutes, I got to fix all my trauma. No. How do you meet this moment authentically? How do you honor what you actually feel? How do you honor what your body feels like? How do you honor what you want to do now? Or what you feel called to do, or what your intuition is guiding you to do? How do you love the person next to you in a genuine way, not like, not like a conditioned way? How can you actually be there for that person? That choice is what this is all about. This is all about the quality of intention that we wield, not primarily the physical itself.
Yeah, that's powerful. I've used the analogy, if you're a Harry Potter fan, of Devil's Snare, the harder you resist or
Yeah.
reject, the tighter it's gonna get.
Yeah, that's right.
Ironically, or I should say paradoxically, it's the surrender, kind of what you described in the womb of
Yeah.
allowing and surrendering.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like rejection is like putting a dam in the river of life. And then when you do that, the water piles up behind the dam. And then more and more and more pressure builds up. And guess what? It doesn't feel good. And
right.
so, like, often the portions of our lives where we like have a consistent problem or a challenge that keeps arising, yeah, usually there's a rejection somewhere down there that we think is bigger than us. That's why we've closed it off. But when you turn around and say, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being afraid. I honor myself enough to go look into the scary closet and pull that dam out of the river. And it can flow again.
That's it. I just drove back from family gathering in Fort Worth. It's only about 5 hours from here. And I just knew the first hour, no radio, nothing, quiet.
Hmm.
And I needed to be in, like, I guess what these scenes would have put themselves in a cave by themselves just to be with their fear. Because there
Hmm.
have been fears that have just, I noticed they're chronically cycling back through. And I was like, you just have to really sit with us and bring it in close. Stop trying to get away from it.
Yep.
Let's go ahead and just be with it and integrate it, or as we've been talking about, alchemize it. And then it doesn't have the same hold. At least this has been my experience. And refinement. Like, it'll come back around, but each time it's not quite as intense as what I've
Uh-huh.
discovered.
Yeah,
Right.
one thought that comes to mind there is so this is about quality of actual intention. So when it comes to fear, a game we may then play after what we just said, maybe now, okay, I want to integrate it and alchemize it because I want to get rid of it because I hate it. Okay. But then your intention is not necessarily to alchemize it.
Yeah.
Then your intention is to escape it again
Yeah.
in a new way.
That's a good nuance. Yeah, very clever.
So I'm just pointing that out because facing fear is about acceptance. What does acceptance mean? It means willingness to feel whatever you weren't willing to feel before. Okay, so now the thing is, though, the ego has usually covered that up with 1,000 layers of distractions and stories. Usually we can't even locate the root fear because it's so deep. Okay, so there's a kind of a magic door, though, the current moment. So what I mean is whatever you are experiencing right now, just fully, alertly feel now. What's here now? Allow it, feel it all the way. Maybe it's a sensation in your body. Maybe you find I have a little negative sensation in my diaphragm. Okay. Feel that. And then that might prompt a thought. It might not seem relevant. It's probably relevant. If you put your intention on, and then that might connect to something else. And 3,000 layers down, it is connected. So I'm just saying that the deeper portion of yourself, guess what? It wants you to succeed. The whole system wants you to succeed. It's all helping you. So when you're actually finally willing, because the universe is listening to your actual intention. When you're actually willing to face your crap and take ownership, like for real, and meet what's in this moment, things will be lifted up that you might not understand the connection, but if you just pay attention and remain alert and feel what has arisen now, what has arisen now, and then maybe the next moment what arises is extremely painful. Maybe a depression arises. Maybe a bipolar low arises. Maybe you get sick. That's okay. That's okay. Feel that. That's the new now. That's okay. Feel that now. Don't resist that. And as we practice this non-resistance to just this now moment, the doors open all the way down eventually to the root. Now, the root fear, that root thing that's there to be alchemized, usually feels so darn big. It feels like it will destroy us if I look at it and feel it. That's the ultimate challenge then. Because guess what? It's not going to destroy you. Cliff's Notes cheating ending. It's not going to destroy you. But you have to be willing. I mean, you don't have to. You can make whatever choice you like. But if you really want to face it, it is about the willingness to even let it destroy you. It won't. This is intense stuff we're talking about. This is true alchemy. This is what I'm talking about. This is intense. Like this fear that I came to process, I had post-traumatic stress for a number of years. I couldn't even remember up until the age of 22 for about 6 or 7 years. I went through 5 years of EMDR therapy every week. So I probably went through 200 or 300 sessions of EMDR therapy until I found lower layer of pain, lower layer of fear, lower layer of connected negative self-perception. All this kid picked on me in 7th grade and that really hurt. No, I had this experience and, on and on and on, all the way down. And I kept thinking, I think that was the root. It was so powerful and negative. Oh, I thought that was the root. No. One day I found the root. This moment that I was in a hospital bed in Chengdu, China, and I had a full knowing of this negative self-perception of being completely powerless to escape agony. And this was the fear that I came to process, but it was so deep and dark, it felt like it would absolutely destroy me. So it's like in order to get rid of the tornado, you have to let the tornado pick you up and fling you around and tell you its message. Because all the fear is all it is trying to deliver to you a negative self-perception that's actually not true that you're resisting. That's all. And once you actually allow it and feel it, the tornado dissipates. And all that's left is what you always were, which is love and joy, except now it's way deeper because now you allowed all the way down. And I'm reminded of there's a TikToker named Emerald Sage that my wife follows, and I watched a video of hers recently, and she said something like, spiritual growth is not about just focusing on these few really good vibrations and ignoring everything else. The true spiritual walk is an acceptance of all the vibrations, all the frequencies of life, so much so that you get more of the frequencies, including even higher dimensional experiences. I mean, that sounds crazy, but out-of-body experiences just started happening for me, at least, when I said yes to everything here. You see, like when I stopped saying no and opened the doors, And there are blissful realms available to us that are just thousands and thousands, millions of times more radiant and beautiful than anything we could experience on Earth. They're there, they're real right now. But by rejecting basically when we reject anything, we're saying no to life.
My team for everyone listening, my team just highlighted that that was the main message that wants to get through to humanity. What Christian just said is the rejection of the negative self-perception that isn't true. If everybody's got their cosmic highlighter out, that's the one you want to highlight and really just take to heart for the rest of this incarnation. That's the work right there. That's it. Yeah, nirvana, I was told, is all of it, because you can't be in bliss if you haven't experienced the contrast. So it's being able to hold all those states, but with equanimity instead of to your point about, yeah, let's just make it all go away and let's focus on love and light, love and light. So I've been joking, it's important to do shadow work like 3 curtains back, but I
Yeah.
feel like I want to say 3,000 curtains back now after speaking with you. It's like, right. There's always, one of my clients said it. She said, because I said, peel the onion. She said, oh, you mean the whole bag of onions? Like it's not just
Yeah, a little bag of onions. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I can feel the collective being like, oh my gosh, talk to him about all the timeline stuff. So
Okay.
when you were talking about all the different branches, you know, I don't know if that's lifting at this time, because they've been having me talk about exploring other timelines that we've done and weaving them in and kind of trying to bring all those composites together in interesting ways. And you can do that within just this human experience. And then, of course, across your whole suite of your known aspects. But, you know, I get that not remembering, losing access to those data points, as you spoke to earlier, helps to you know, create the experience of limitation that we have here.
Yes.
Anything that you can speak to about that? Because I could just feel the everyone wondering more about that, because that is the relationship most of us have. We want psychic safety, so we want certainty, we want the known, we want to be able to put things in boxes and say, okay, that's what I'm going to be, and I mean, I know people aren't going to want to hear this, but I've experienced, we really need to be able to embrace the opposite of the undefined, the unknown, being surrendered to, as you say, the present moment and what is arising constantly here, rather than trying to grasp for certainty. But I don't know, maybe that's changing, you know?
Yeah, the ego grasps for certainty because the ego just means the part of us that's responding in fear, because the ego's like, oh my God, I don't have any power. I can't see. I can't see. Okay, let's grab something. Please, please give me a belief. Give me an understanding. Oh, now I feel better. That's okay. That's okay. We're blind. Like this is like playing blind, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the ego is just like, okay, I feel powerless, so I'm going to hurt the person next to me. Now I feel better. Or I don't have worth. Oh, but look, now I have money in my bank account. Now I have worth. See? See? You know, it doesn't really work. Or, you know, I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't know that I'm going to survive death. Tell me about what I can grab onto with that, you know, with the different aspects of the self or timelines. You know, the irony, of course, is that the opposite is the true way. Like what I mean is the full acceptance of not knowing is how you discover the truth. Like I don't claim to know anything, but like the book A Walk in the Physical, it was deeply the result of me surrendering to the fact I knew nothing. I had nothing right. All my previous beliefs were not helpful. I knew very little. I was terrified. That's okay, you see, because once you fully allow and accept that, it's like the vine that you mentioned in Harry Potter. Once you stop fighting and you let go, you get released to the chamber below the vine in Harry Potter. Like you just the way I would put it is the larger portions of yourself bubble up because now you're not putting up a boundary anymore. So timelines, okay, so I don't know too much about the mechanics of time. I mean, the way I understand it is okay, so there's a lot of different universes. So talking about just ours, I like the way Tom Campbell, the physicist, describes timelines. He describes how there are many trillions of units time per second, and each unit time, the simulation is calculating all the possibilities and predicting outcome out many, many, many possible avenues. And that's what I experienced pre-life. Like the system could see there were all these potentials, but I didn't know which was going to actualize. See, there's novelty in the system. That's what makes this universe so valuable, actually, is the system doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. It can predict it pretty darn well because it knows us really well. It knows all the rules. Spirit knows all the rules. It knows all the virtual reality rules. It knows physics. It knows it made up the physics. Okay. It made it up. It created the rules. It knows you. It knows me. So it's pretty darn good at predicting outcomes. So most people, when they like ping into the records or check psychically, they usually get pretty good results, you know. But so okay, so then, but every unit time, every one of us is making choices. That's the unknown, is what intention will we actually wield? What choices will we actually make? And then that allows one actualized thread to develop through the timelines and many trillions of unactualized threads. And so some who explore the Akashic records may get a full-blown real visual sight sound of the example Tom Campbell uses is show me New York City 50 years after the Nazis won World War II. You know, if they won World War II, what would New York City look like? The database will show you. This is the most likely outcome for what would have happened if that happened. And it's all there. You can see it, you could taste it, you could touch it, but it's just a recording. It's not a novel unfolding simulation anymore. Whereas the thread that we're on is novel. It's the actual what choices were actually made. You see, and then in our post-life review, we can actually review, well, what would have happened if I made this choice? And the system is pretty good for your benefit of showing you this is probably what would have happened. But, you know, we didn't make every choice. We made the choices we made. And that thread is the live thread that we're on now for this given personality portion of the self.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. And I know my viewers will be like, wow, you got to ask them if I don't multidimensionality into your recollection, if that's part of your pre-birth memories. Do you have memories of other systems in which you just are like, now that one, and then how does that, you know, is it part of your composite that you're drawing from in this experience?
Yeah. So now that's I interpret that question to be less about multidimensionality itself and more about the other personality portions of my own soul and my connection to them.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like, I guess, if it's just like what have been some of your favorite experiences in all that is, and why?
Oh, what, as Christian or not as Christian?
Any, I guess it's really like a little further afield, you know, like
well, I'll just say a couple of things. So like, first of all, I know that I've had non-human intelligent life experience. So I've had at least one experience of what we would call an alien civilization, but that's not like a big deal to spirit.
Right.
It's not weird at all. Like, I know to us, it's like, oh my gosh, aliens, now we're getting super woo. Well, I mean, the universe is a super, super big place. If you just, I mean, come on, it's ridiculously large, and life is working with all of it. Okay, so there's more than just Earth going on here. Yeah, but Earth is extremely unique and precious. Earth is like I know this is a tangent from your question, but Earth is like a bunch of sixth graders or fourth graders maybe out on a playground playing very loudly and not being super respectful to each other and kind of making a mess and trying to get to college in like 1 year. You know what I mean? Like and that is vibrationally really obvious in the universe. Like, it's really unique. So getting to play a human on Earth is like winning the lottery. Anyway, but specifically to your question about other experiences. So, I mean, gosh, I've had experiences in this life that even just some that are brief, but I've had out of body experiences that are so beautiful and so blissful. Like, I remember having one out of body experience where I was just looking at this incredible landscape, I guess, with a sky and trees and grass, and the grass was so green that the green was alive. The grass was alive. And I felt like the grass was so beautiful that I could spend all day looking at the grass and I would be overjoyed. Just the grass, just one blade of grass. That is how absolutely breathtakingly beautiful higher realm experiences can be. And the colors there are more rich and alive, like vibrant, beyond, like, this is like a black and white movie by comparison, you know? And so even just one, like, I think of one experience there, maybe, 2 minutes in that place in what we would perceive to be time. Oh my gosh, it's heavenly. Now, the thing is, that can be very distracting. So in my own case, because I was like, oh, now I want to do that all the time because that's like way better than this. So, but then my intuitive guidance is, no, no, you need to focus. You're here to do this. So let's do,
Mhm.
use the human experience while I'm here, kind of thing. So I try not to, focus too much in that direction. Non-physical experiences may arise. Like one time I was out of body all of a sudden, my body was sleeping and I was in this realm of light that was so beautiful and so blissful and so high vibration. And I did this thing where like, oh my gosh, I'm here. And then I thought, oh my God, I could feel my body like way down
Mm.
vibrationally, like this tiny dense point of existence way down. And I was like, oh, this is an opportunity for me to see if I can straddle that whole vibration at once. So I tried to like, this is hard to describe. I tried to like step all the way down into the body vibration and feel the whole, like, can I be so big that I can even feel that? Like, so that those kind of experience, that's just a couple like super quick, simple, I guess, examples, but they're very impactful. I mean, after I started having non-physical experiences, I came back, like I said, like you said in the beginning, I just wanted to like tell people. I just wanted to, I said to my wife, I mean, I only considered this for like 2 minutes or something because I know it's ridiculous, but I was so excited. I said, I'm going to make flyers and put them in people's mailboxes. I'm going to say, you're a multidimensional being having a human experience. You have nothing to fear, you know? And she's like, yeah, you're going to be that guy if you do that. I was like, yeah, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's that effect I tend to have. Either people are really riveted or they're running for the
or the
door.
running for, I
Right?
understand,
Like
and
that.
I'm a really down to earth type rational person too. Like I mean, I seek to kind of bridge the two worlds actually, because this is a real thing. Okay. This is not just woo woo, it's real.
Right.
So it does stand up to the greatest intellectual rigor.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just that human understanding is very limited and very form-based. Materialism itself is wrong.
Mhm.
Like it's just wrong. The idea that material is the base foundation of reality, no,
Right.
it's not. Like it's just wrong. So like everything we build on top of that is wrong. Like we
Right.
have to get deeper than that, and we can.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest resistance I see. And I had to go through it initially myself was that you're asking for a complete worldview shift and nothing disrupts psychic safety like a complete worldview shift.
You
You
got it.
know?
Well, I mean, that's my book. That is the thing about it.
Yeah.
It's a, it is a worldview shift. But I felt guided by spirit that like, okay, so like I'll just say at least this, that like I feel like my book is like my life's work. Okay, in the sense that I learn I'm historically an intellectual, so I learned an intellectual framework, and then I had these experiences, and then I realized my intellect means nothing. Like my intellectual understanding meant like zilch, except that at least it's a lens through which I was able to put into words a framework. That's really what a walk in the physical is. It's a framework for the thinking mind of the spiritually seeking intellect here, whether you're intellectual or not. It's a framework through which to try to approach those portions of us that transcend the form of earth, including our thoughts, our earth-based thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big step, but that is what I feel called to do, and I'm very passionate about it.
Well, and you've done such a beautiful job. And in this
Thank you.
case, your intellect then it becomes the tool to be able to do that effectively and bridge, you know, the science and spirituality. The page they had me go to is 49. Don't take life so seriously. No one makes it out alive, right? So um
Yes.
it's so beautiful because a lot of the density that we've taken on, laughter. I've been coached to use laughter a lot as a way to break up density. Because sometimes we can't
Hmm.
go straight to joy
Right.
and happiness. We have to find a way there, that
Absolutely.
circumvents old patterns. Yeah. Yeah. So
It's a
yeah,
dense playground. So what part can you play with that will give laughter and that you enjoy? What do you enjoy here? Well, what if I enjoy Netflix and go watch Netflix? That's fine. You know what I'm saying? It's
right.
part of the playground. Yeah.
I used to say watching videos of kittens helps you be happier. Just do that. Whatever reality hack you.
Whatever you personally, genuinely, authentically enjoy.
You said something really interesting. Being here at this time, it's like fourth, sixth graders trying to get to college in a year. It's like winning the lottery.
Mhm.
I think I understand what you mean about that, about the growth opportunity, but I think that might be worth just exploring a little bit more here in our remaining time.
Sure. So this dense alchemizing that we're talking about, oh man, what kind of a metaphor can I use? I mean, what comes to mind is like someone swinging a sword and trying to learn how to like, I don't know, cut targets in half or something. The environment that we're at right now, we are trying to swing a sword that's mostly usually made out of wood, wearing 1,000 pounds on our back with a blindfold on, and there's like 67 targets around us and they're constantly moving. You know what I mean? And then we can't hit a thing. And then we hit one and we're like, I got one, but like it almost looks like nothing happened, you know? I'm just saying that the metaphor that Natalie Sudman, the near-death experiencer, used is she said that we're seeing like heroes, like superheroes on the other side, because we're like fighter jet pilots who are flying our jets upside down 20 feet off the ground. So that's what I mean is that the this level of rigor. So because it's not only the physical limitations being high, it's also that the human race is kind of a big mess. So you combine those two things, and you've got a raucous, complex, chaotic, loud, uh, situation in which you're trying to wield love and authenticity. That's tricky. That's really tricky. It's not just tricky, it's really hard. It's like climbing Mount Everest is a metaphor I've used before. So then you might say, well, why is climbing Mount Everest hard? Well, because it's like cold and there's no air up there and you have to like practice even just to get to base camp is like on a big accomplishment. That's like being human. Like it takes a lot of soul experience even just to get to base camp, man, let alone climb the mountain and try to actually be loving and joyful in the midst of a society where like, all of our like we have so much intentionality that's aligned with fear, like all the control of resources. We've normalized us versus them thinking everywhere. We've normalized fear-based patterns, victimization, powerlessness all over the place. How do you still choose to be you in the midst of that? And then in so doing and in unlocking yourself, contribute to the growth and freedom of the whole. Because by the way, you don't have to fix the whole. Don't worry about the whole. Just live your own life to the fullest and most authentic way. That's it. Because even a small shift in you, in your mind, in your heart, the whole consciousness sees it and hears it,
Mhm.
right? So what we're here to do is the way that we swing the sword and hit the targets is find the love and the peace and the freedom and the joy in your life in whatever small way and actually do it. And it's okay if it's small. It's okay if it doesn't matter how big it is. It's fine. Quality of intention is what we're here to do, not size. The whole physical is a play anyway. It's not even real. But what's real is you, your consciousness, which wields intention of love or fear. That's it. That's the name of the game. So that's why this is so valuable because we're in the midst of maybe another metaphor might be like I lived in Beijing, China for a while. Trying to cross the street in Beijing at least 24 years ago is a dangerous activity. You could die just crossing the street because there's like
I
cars and
lived in Vietnam.
motorcycles and
I can relate. Yeah, we
what's
called it
that?
I lived in Vietnam. We called it
Okay.
Frogger, trying to get.
Frogger. Yeah, exactly. We called it Frogger too. We would try to get in a group and wait till there's enough people, and then we would push our way through all the vehicles and hope none of us got killed. So I would like measure everywhere I had to walk by like how many streets can I cross, like minimize the number of streets. Anyway, it's like that. It's great. The human experience is like bikes and motorcycles and cars, and it's total chaos. Now, how in the middle of that do you find your peace? How do you find true friendship, true love, true expression of creativity? How do you be yourself when there are motorcycles clipping you, metaphorically, whatever that means in your life? That is that. See, that is the opportunity. It's incredible.
That's the alchemy.
That is the alchemy. That is the alchemy. Like, how do you meet the cacophony? Cacophony is a great word for the energetic environment of Earth. How do you meet the cacophony of fear-based intentionality that we have enshrined for all these years and change it? And changing it just means, how do you live in joy where you are? How do you have compassion for someone next to you where you are? How do you be yourself, your real self? Not the fake self, not the conditioned self, not the thing I was told for 30 or 50, 60, 100 years. I mean, you can do that if you want. I'm talking about the real you, man. Like, whoever you are, even if it's weak, even if it's painful, even if it's whatever. Can you be you, the real you? That's the alchemy, man, right there. Because when you shift your intention with how you relate to it, it doesn't matter that if the form itself doesn't immediately change. It will change, actually. The physical universe can't help but respond to us in consciousness. But even putting that aside, even if you can't see the physical change, doesn't matter. Your spirit is what's real. Your consciousness is what is real. Is your consciousness changing how it relates to the circumstance? That's the playing field, not the object, not the money. I mean, we have to work with money. We have to work in the context that we're in. We have to do our best. But how are you? Like, who are you basically in this context? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's like the great inner disarmament. And
Hmm.
that's like the only stuff,
What do you mean by disarmament?
inner disarmament. So like all the wounded motivation and meeting the moment instead of anger and, you feel shame, for example, shame bubbles up or gets triggered. And do you go for the jugular out of anger, or do you inner
Mm-hmm.
disarm?
So
And
that brings up something. The reason I asked is your comment aligned with what I was thinking. So I just want to point something out. The ego's pattern of like going in anger for the jugular
Mhm.
or in wielding even victimization, man. There's like, oh, I'm a victim, so look, I'm righteous now or something.
Yeah,
All of those patterns, that's not real power. It's fake power. It's like a wooden sword that's not sharp or something. It doesn't actually work. No, so that's why I'm lifting it up, because when you say disarmament, it's what you're disarming yourself from is the fake power,
yeah,
not the real. The real power is the love, acceptance, joy, freedom, openness. That's the real power. The real power is the space in this room doesn't care what I put in it. It will be okay. It exists unto itself. Consciousness is like that. And that's why meditation can be so helpful, by the way, not to go on too big of a tangent. How do we relate to our own thoughts? How do you relate to your inner dialogue? Do you know that that's not you? You're the consciousness. You're not the thoughts. How do you relate to that? Do you free yourself? Do you say, "Oh, I'm gonna choose. I'm gonna change that belief"? You can.
neuroflexibility, it's a thing.
Yes, incredible flexibility. Yes, because the body will change. Like we wear neural pathways. The body can't help but respond to you. It has no choice. So like you pick a new path, it will start to create that path. It has no choice. You have the power right now to change the momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I mean, it seemed pretty apparent to me, just in my own soul remembering, that the only thing we take out of here is how we met the moment. It is all
Amen.
conscious.
Amen.
But yeah, I would say as we close out here, any of your thoughts on like, you know, life review, kind of what's waiting for us as we shift out, and then we take that composite experience with us. So speaking to the alchemy, I don't know, I kind of joke like, sure, we have to have money here and all that. That's great stuff. And we can use it to expand as part of our expression and bust out of old ancestral limiting beliefs. I love all
Mm-hmm.
of that stuff. But at the end of the day, the only asset, if you will, we're taking with us is that,
Who we are
yeah, exactly. It's the consciousness and how the consciousness is learned and grown and all of that,
and
so
affected others. Yeah, because the others are a part of you. Like, they say life review, like you experience how you affected other people from their perspective. That's because they are you. Like, like love is not just like a nice thing. It's logical. It's the right way because the other is you. So you can take with you, was I able to actualize the celebration of the other as a part of myself, even? Was I able, like when Jesus says, do unto the others as you would do unto yourself? That's that's the most natural, of course, spiritual law because the other is yourself. So we take that with us. So when we have a life review, we look back, we don't get to take the things. There's no things. There's no objects. There's no bowling balls. There's no money. There's none of that. You're not even your body. It's like taking off a shirt. You can fight real hard to keep that shirt, man. You can, you're not going to keep it. It's going away. But you are you. The quality of your intention you get to keep. The evolution you get to keep. So, like metaphorically, if being physical is like laying on a weight bench, and then throughout your life, people put different amounts of weight on the bar. And then sometimes it's harder to lift, and sometimes it's easier to lift. And sometimes it's really hard to lift. Lifting means choosing love and peace and joy. Lifting means acceptance. Lifting means taking ownership. Lifting the weight means, wow, I will be authentic even here. Or I will face my fear in this circumstance that just arose. I will face my grief, maybe. Grief is a heavy weight. I will face and feel my grief, and I will learn and grow. Now, that's all the weight. The weight is like the circumstance, the earth, all the things. We put the weight back. When we're done, we get off the bench, and metaphorically, we keep the muscle. Now, in this case, muscle means the evolution of your being. Who you are, your nature, your intention, your ability to respond to that heavy of a weight. Okay, so then, not to be too tantalizing to the ego, but this is meaningful. Let's say on Earth you learn how to lift 100 pounds. Let's say somebody was, I don't know, let's say you had a sickness like the being that I experienced, and you learned how to function through it. You learned how to keep perseverance. You learned how to find joy even with pain present. Okay. Then physical life ends. No more pain. Pain's gone. You're still you, though. You learned how to lift 100 pounds of weight. And then you go to a reality system that's I'm just using numbers for the sake of numbers, but 1/100th the density. Okay. So now somebody hands you 1 pound. You can throw that thing down the street because that's not hard for you now because you did the 100 pounds. 1 pound is nothing. And so that's why when Bob Monroe, the out-of-body explorer, I heard him say this years after I'd shared my experience, because this comment he made is exactly what I experienced. He said that beings who had graduated the physical were like gods in higher systems. They had so much ability and power and depth of knowing and depth of feeling. They could do things with their intent, with their thought alone. That was like a godlike amount of influence, because we have pushed against the ultimate density. And in so doing, we seek to enhance and grow the ultimate strength. You see, the spiritual strength, which is love, and pure intention, and the how, and the integration of experience itself is like a refinement of the quality of being that we then get to apply in higher systems.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to your opening story of the being that you encountered must have had some of these qualities that you're just.
Yes, absolutely. He was a master in this certain quality. It was like he could feel things and do things that I was not even remotely capable of. I couldn't even perceive them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's what we're doing it's like growing up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful. I know that this is going to help so many people who hear it, because this is a dense place. As you said, this is no joke. It's not for
no joke.
it's not for newbies.
Not for the light, not for the faint of heart. No.
Right, exactly.
And people have different levels of it too. Some people are on level 20 difficulty and some are on level 50.
Right. Yeah, it's always impressed me, even once you're here, the vibrational divide that exists.
Yes, huge.
Once you're here, what's possible. Yeah. So I'm just so grateful for your time and your energy. It comes through in volumes, and I know people will be able to feel that. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Thank you. And my wife has the stomach flu right now, and I felt queasy all day. So hopefully it'll be okay. But this is I'm just going to choose to
energy
be present anyway. Yeah. We'll see what the body does.
awalkinthephysical.com. Is that the best for people to go find your book and more information about you?
Yep. awalkinthephysical.com. The book is available online for free, to be read online for free. It's a PDF on Google Books that you can just click on the link and read it. Or it's on Amazon in print or Kindle or on audiobook on Audible. And the website also has a bunch of talks and other places I've shared. And I'm also happy to try to respond by email if people reach out, though lately I have not been able to keep up. I'm receiving too many emails, but I do try to respond when I can. It's awalkinthephysical@gmail.com.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think the last thing that is being invited in is what's so wonderful is, like you said in the beginning, you're a guy walking the earth walk too. You got your bills to pay and all of that. So it's really nice to hear from, someone who's in the trenches. And I guess it's just what's being invited in is just any sort of daily kind of, I don't know if it's a mantra or a reflection that you have that just really helps you navigate everything there is to navigate being human at this time.
Hmm. So I remind myself this is an illusion, and and the way that I mean that is this is a playground. Like because I find myself falling into seriousness sometimes, like at work, or an illness or something, or a social interaction that's less than pleasant or something, and then I fall into serious. So I try to pause. Eckhart Tolle talks about having one breath of presence throughout the day. Just turn your attention, because here's the thing. Okay, this is the little cheat. Okay, this is what pops to mind. I discovered this is so simple, but it's so powerful. My thoughts aren't that important. And so, so what I mean is, every time I sit down and meditate, I typically end up feeling, oh, I've been thinking my thoughts are really important. I got this thing I got to do. I got this bill I got to pay. I got this. It's really, everything is important. I try to meditate. It's like, nope, boss, we got thoughts. These are really important. Guess what? They're not. So I tell myself every time, no, no, no. Remember, it's okay. Like none of the thoughts, basically, this is the cheat. None of the thoughts are so important that you can't put them down and be present.
Love that.
And be alert.
Yeah.
And put your attention on awareness itself. There's no form that is more important than spirit itself, which gives rise to form. So I try to remind myself of that, throughout my day.
Just that, don't take it so seriously.
You basically don't take it so seriously, man. It's okay. Like I'm reminded one last comment of there's a near-death experiencer named Amy Call, and when she came back from her NDE, she was still seeing, through the God lens, through the high spirit lens. And these two cable guys came to her front door and they said, "We're here to fix your cable." And she said she couldn't stop laughing. The whole time they were there, she was like dying because it was the funniest thing that these powerful multidimensional beings were taking it so seriously that they needed to fix her cable. But we all do that, man. Like I do that. Like, and sometimes I look at myself and I go, oh, wow. I'm really taking this seriously today. Like it's okay. I'm not really a cable guy. I'm not really a human, actually. I know that sounds crazy. You're not actually a human. Whoever you are listening to that, you're you. You having the experience of humanhood, creaturehood, the body. That's all. You're actually you. You're actually not the human.
That's it. Exactly. Well, and no coincidence, that was a theme today in calls, was reintroducing playfulness as a balance to a system out of balance. And I think it really is the next leading edge. I think we'll see a lot more of that introduced in leadership development and human resource development. It's been the big missing component that humanity.
Oh, it's a huge missing component. There's a Seth quote that I love that I put in the book too. It's, on one hand, you take life too seriously. On the other hand, you don't take play seriously enough.
I love it. What a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here. When I feel into the energy of what you're offering, I'm just so honored. To meet you in the physical is an honor. So thank you for the work you're doing.
Likewise. Thank you. Take care. And I'm sending you all wonderful energy for quick template shift and recovery.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.